Should the Dungeon Master be the only one that's in charge of the game? That's up for debate. Dungeon Masters versus the dice. Who's in charge? The sad news is, it's the Dungeon Masters. No matter what you think, if you think the dice are in charge of Dungeons and Dragons, you're wrong. The DM is. Now, whether this is right or wrong is not the topic. What we're really talking about is the fact of the Dungeon Master can overrule pretty much any dice roll. They're the ones that set the DCs. They can put a monster up against you and set the AC, something that's unhittable. The Dungeon Master has all the power when it comes to determining that. How they use it depends on the type of game they're playing. Right or wrong, the dice are not in control of the game. The Dungeon Master is. Now, we can debate what Dungeon Master should be doing and shouldn't be doing, but the bottom line is when Dungeon Masters realize that, it allows them to actually take a second to create and craft encounters and situations which are amazing storytelling devices, because then they realize that they have the ability to influence. Dungeon Masters versus the rules. Who's in charge? Again, the Dungeon Master wins. There are some TTRPGs where the rules are absolute. However, any table can override those. Now, are the players in control? Do they get to decide who's in charge? No, the Dungeon Master does. The Game Master, the person in charge of running the game, can override any rule that's out there. They can create their own rules and create their own takes on the rules. The thing is that the rules are guidelines. And regardless of whether we like it or not, we can argue all day long with a Game Master, a Dungeon Master, the person running the game. They're the ones that get to decide whether or not something can happen. Now, whether they should or shouldn't, again, that is a different question. There is what I would consider the right way of doing things. There's using the rule of cool. There's incentivizing good storytelling. But the bottom line is the Dungeon Master has the final say, whether they use it for good or evil. If you think for 1 second that the Dungeon Master isn't the one in charge of the game, I pose to you one scenario. You go through a dungeon looking for a MacGuffin. The Dungeon Master told you the MacGuffin is there. You go into the dungeon. You do not find the MacGuffin anywhere to be found. The only reason you don't find the MacGuffin is because the Dungeon Master did not put it there. The Dungeon Master provides you as the players with all the information you have to go on. In fact, anything the Dungeon Master says, you have to take as canon, as law, as lore, because that's the only thing you have to go on. If you're playing a TTRPG, the Game Master is the one that provides the world to you. You can only react to what the Dungeon Master or Game Master provides to you. If they do not provide it to you, you do not react. Henceforth, the Game Master and Dungeon Master is in control of everything, good or bad. Now here's the thing, I love collaborative storytelling, and the fact of players adding to the world and adding to the reality and having a guy and being able to institute lore into the game from the player standpoint is a very cool mechanic. The idea behind understanding that the Dungeon Master is in control of everything is for one simple purpose. The Dungeon Master has to realize that every bit of information the players are getting is the only thing the players have to go of. This conversation is not about who's in control. It's about empowering the Dungeon Masters to give the players as much information as they can that directs the players to the things the players find interesting, allowing the players the freedom of choice, and then providing them with enough information to actually make the decisions, find the MacGuffin, find the magic item, or make the discoveries that impact them as the players. Use the power wisely.